More than 2,000 years ago, people were building devices that look surprisingly modern. A mechanical system of gears that works like a computer, a glass cup that behaves like something made with modern materials science, a steam-powered machine built centuries before steam-powered factories. These are real artifacts from the ancient world, and today we're looking at 6 ancient devices that resemble modern technology and how they were actually built. Number 6. The machine that heard the earth scream. In ancient China, an earthquake was not a natural disaster. It was a death sentence for whoever sat on the throne. Under a belief called the Mandate of Heaven, every tremor meant the gods had judged the emperor and found him unworthy. A single earthquake in the wrong province at the wrong moment could ignite a rebellion and burn the dynasty to the ground. For the man on the throne, knowing about a distant earthquake before anyone else was not science. It was survival. In 132 AD, a man named Zhang Heng unveiled something no one in the imperial court had ever seen. A massive bronze vessel, nearly 2 meters across, sat in the palace at Luoyang, decorated with mountains and celestial symbols. 8 dragon heads circled the top, each gripping a bronze ball. Below each dragon waited a toad with its mouth tilted upward. Zhang Heng had served as chief astronomer to 2 emperors, catalogued over 2,500 stars, built the first water-powered armillary sphere in history, and pushed mathematics in directions that would not be matched for centuries. Historians compare him directly to Leonardo da Vinci, but on this particular day, every official in the palace was quietly convinced the great astronomer had finally gone mad. On a perfectly still afternoon, when no one in the capital felt the slightest vibration, the dragon facing west dropped its ball. It landed in the toad with a clang that echoed through the hall. Zhang Heng walked to the emperor and stated that a catastrophic earthquake had struck far to the west and that relief teams must be sent immediately. The court erupted in laughter. The floor was perfectly still. Tea in every cup sat undisturbed. For 3 days, the palace whispered that Zhang Heng had staged a pathetic trick. Then a rider burst through the gates, barely alive on a horse that collapsed the moment it stopped. Longxi, over 600 kilometers to the west, had been leveled, cities reduced to rubble, thousands dead. Nobody in that court ever laughed at Zhang Heng again. After his death, the designs were lost. Every attempt to rebuild it over the following centuries ended in failure. When the 2005 research team finally cracked the mechanism using an internal pendulum and the principle of inertia, they believed they had solved it at last. But their version could not detect the devastating 2008 Sichuan earthquake, one of the most powerful in modern Chinese history. Whatever Zhang Heng perfected in that palace 2,000 years ago remains stubbornly beyond our ability to reproduce. Then comes number 5, the cup that changed color. In the British Museum sits a Roman drinking cup that has been quietly embarrassing modern science for over a century. The Lycurgus Cup dates to roughly the 4th century AD. A mythological scene is carved into its surface, showing a king strangled by grapevines for insulting the god of wine. Under normal museum lighting, it is a dull, murky green, about the color of old pea soup, but place a candle inside it, the way a Roman host would have done at a banquet, and something extraordinary happens. The green vanishes entirely, and the cup transforms into a luminous, deep ruby red that seems to glow from within, as though the glass itself has come alive. Nothing else from the ancient world does this. Romans themselves believed the cup was enchanted, that it could sense poison and warn the drinker before a single drop reached their lips. Every powerful Roman with enemies wanted one. After Rome collapsed, the technique disappeared completely. Generations of medieval and Renaissance glassmakers dedicated entire careers to reproducing the effect. Every single one of them failed. The answer did not arrive until 1990, when scientists D.J. Barber and Ian Freestone placed a fragment under a transmission electron microscope and found nanoparticles of gold and silver alloy, each measuring between 50 and 100 nanometers, roughly 1,000 times thinner than a single human hair. At that scale, metal stops behaving normally. It interacts with light through a quantum process called surface plasmon resonance, where electrons on the particle surface vibrate in concert with passing light waves, allowing red wavelengths through while bouncing green back. Two completely different colors from one single object, depending only on where the light source sits. The gold to silver ratio was eerily consistent throughout the entire cup. Only 40 parts per million of gold and 300 of silver, a precision that should not have been achievable with any tool available in the 4th century. And the direct connection to your daily life is unsettling. The exact same nanoparticle physics now powers every home pregnancy test and every rapid COVID antigen test on the planet. That red line tells you the result is surface plasmon resonance. The exact same phenomenon that made a Roman cup glow 1600 years ago now tells millions of people daily whether they are pregnant or sick. After this, let's tell you about number 4, the Baghdad Battery. In 1936, near Baghdad, an archaeologist named Wilhelm Koenig opened a set of small clay jars from a dig site, and what he found inside turned a routine excavation into an international sensation. Within each jar sat a cylinder of rolled copper. Suspended inside that cylinder, positioned so that it touched the copper at no point, hung a thin iron rod. Two dissimilar metals are deliberately insulated from each other and sealed in a container. Koenig recognized the structure immediately. A galvanic cell, a battery. The jars dated to roughly 2,000 years ago, and the modern battery would not exist until Volta built one in 1800. Scientists constructed exact replicas and filled them with grape vinegar, an acidic liquid abundant in the ancient world. The jars dutifully produced half a volt of measurable electricity. The theories went wild. Commentators pointed to Egyptian carvings resembling oversized light bulbs and declared the ancients had electric illumination. Others suggested priests used the current to shock worshippers, manufacturing the physical sensation of divine punishment. But the story most people never hear is where the theory falls apart completely. The copper cylinder does not extend beyond the bitumen seal, making it physically impossible to attach any external wire. When researcher Emmerich Pashthori constructed sealed replicas matching the originals exactly, electrical output dropped to nothing. The iron rod was tapered in a shape inconsistent with electrode use, and nearly identical jars excavated at the nearby sites of Seleucia and Ctesiphon did not contain electrodes at all. They contained decomposed papyrus scrolls. They were protective storage vessels for magical incantation texts, found right alongside ritual bowls used in Mesopotamian protective spells. Scholar Ernst Kunel, who led the Ctesiphon dig, described them as containers for conjurations and blessings written on papyrus. Professor Elizabeth Stone of Stony Brook University stated plainly that no working archaeologist she knows considers these to be actual batteries. The supposedly electroplated objects Koenig cited turned out to be fire gilded with mercury, a well-documented technique unrelated to electricity. The originals were looted from the Iraq Museum in 2003 and remain missing today. The Baghdad Battery may be the most famous ancient mystery that turns out not to be a mystery at all, which makes the next discovery far more unsettling, because this one is undeniably and provably real. Before we go further, we're really curious. Where are you watching from right now? Drop your country and city in the comments, because it's always amazing to see how global this community really is. Let's go back to another surprising technology from the past. Number 3. The Antikythera Mechanism. In 1900, Greek sponge divers sheltering from a storm near the island of Antikythera sent a man named Elias Stadiatis to the seafloor. He surfaced trembling and barely coherent, stammering about dead bodies on the bottom. The captain dove and found a Roman shipwreck 2,000 years old. The bodies were statues scattered across the sand like sleeping figures. Among the treasures recovered over the following months was a corroded green lump that nobody looked at twice. It sat in a museum crate in Athens for 2 years, collecting dust. Then, in 1902, museum director Valerios Stais noticed the lump had cracked, and inside was a precisely cut bronze gear wheel in a Greek artifact from roughly 100 BC. Complex gearing was not supposed to exist anywhere on Earth for another 14 centuries. The scholarly world erupted in disbelief. In 2006, researchers Mike Edmonds and Tony Freeth scanned every surviving fragment with a purpose-built 450 kilovolt CT scanner. What the images revealed was the most complex scientific instrument ever recovered from antiquity. At least 30 interlocking bronze gears with hand-filed teeth barely 2 millimeters across, housed in a wooden box the size of a shoebox. A crank on the side drove the entire system. Front dials tracked the sun, moon, and all 5 visible planets through the zodiac. A pin and slot mechanism reproduced the moon's elliptical acceleration, which is a mechanical embodiment of Kepler's second law, assembled 17 centuries before Kepler was born. Spiral dials on the back predicted eclipses years in advance and tracked the timing of the Olympic Games. Over 3,000 characters of Greek instruction text engraved on the surfaces functioned as a user manual. In 2021, a team at University College London published a full reconstruction, and even with modern computational modelling, they struggled to understand how the gears fit together. The ancient Greeks did it with hand tools and hand-filed teeth. We found this one only because a ship sank in a storm. Bronze was far too valuable to leave intact. Every other mechanism like it was melted down for scrap metal, coins, and jewelry. We will never know how many existed. The next surprising discovery is about number 2, the robots in the temple. Alexandria, in the 1st century D, was the undisputed intellectual capital of the world, home to the Great Library and the Museum, where the brightest minds alive gathered to study and teach. Its massive temples drew crowds in the thousands, and the priests running those temples understood their congregations perfectly. People did not come for sermons, they came for proof, visible, undeniable proof that the gods existed and were paying attention. The man who manufactured that proof was Heron of Alexandria, a mathematician, engineer, and teacher at the museum, quite possibly the most inventive single human being the ancient world ever produced. Imagine standing shoulder to shoulder in a crowd of hundreds before a temple. Towering before you are 2 bronze doors, 2 stories tall, and weighing more than any group of men could move by hand. A priest in ceremonial robes walks forward without approaching the doors. He kneels at a small stone altar and lights a fire. Flame climbs. Smoke curls into the sky. The crowd holds its breath. Then, from deep inside the stone, you hear it. A slow, heavy, grinding creak of metal. Those colossal doors begin to swing open entirely on their own. No ropes. Through the widening gap, a statue of a god appears, bathed in torchlight, staring directly at the crowd. People around you collapse to their knees in tears, utterly certain the god has personally accepted the offering and opened the doors. Underneath the floor, Heron had built a sealed thermodynamic circuit that would not be understood by formal science for another 18 centuries. The altar was a hollow, sealed chamber. Fire heated the trapped air, which expanded through a tube into a sphere half filled with water. Pressurized air pushed the water through a siphon into a hanging bucket. As the bucket grew heavier, it pulled ropes over pulleys that rotated the door shafts. When the fire died, the air contracted. A vacuum sucked the water back, and counterweights closed the doors. He also invented the first coin-operated vending machine, a holy water dispenser at temple entrances. He designed mechanical theatres that performed entire mythological plays driven by knotted ropes that scholars have compared to primitive programming languages. He built self-loading crossbows and singing mechanical birds. And sitting on his workbench was one more invention that could have rewritten the future of civilization. Number 1. The engine that could have changed everything. Heron's dinner guests thought it was a delightful party trick. A polished copper cauldron of boiling water with a hollow sphere mounted above it, 2 curved nozzles on opposite sides, like miniature jet engines. Steam blasted through the nozzles and set the sphere spinning faster and faster until it reached an estimated 1,500 revolutions per minute and became a howling, vibrating blur of heat and motion. His guests applauded and asked him to do it again. They saw entertainment. We see a fully operational steam turbine, the direct ancestor of every engine that ever powered a factory, a locomotive, or a ship. Heron had the turbine. He understood gears intimately from decades of mechanical work. He used pistons and valves in his other machines. Wooden track rails already existed in Greek mines. Every fundamental ingredient for an industrial revolution sat within arm's reach, and the engine just kept spinning on the table, entertaining guests. Century after century after century, the popular explanation is slavery. Why build a costly machine when a human being costs less than a meal? There is some truth in that. but modern historians call it only a fraction of the answer. Roman metallurgy could not produce precision cylinders or pressure-tight seals. Even 17 centuries later, James Watt could not build his steam engine until John Wilkinson invented a machine in 1774 capable of boring a cylinder to tolerances tighter than the width of a coin. The concept of atmospheric pressure did not exist until Torricelli described it in 1643. There was no printing press to share discoveries, no patent system to protect inventors, no financial institutions willing to fund dangerous experiments. But the part of this story that should follow you home tonight is what happened after these civilizations collapsed. Rome's population dropped from 1 million to roughly 50,000. Roman self-healing concrete, a property MIT confirmed only in 2023, went unreplicated for 1600 years. The Pantheon dome, completed in 125 AD, stood unmatched for 13 centuries. These 6 objects are not museum curiosities. They are proof that everything we know, everything we have built, everything we assume will last forever, can be erased completely. It has already happened. It took over 1,000 years to climb back. And there is absolutely nothing written into the laws of nature that promises it cannot happen again. Tell us in the comments which one kept you thinking after the video ended, and whether you believe what we know right now is truly as permanent as we like to assume. See you next time.